started this thing called Invent, okay, invent.us, and we brought in over 30 experts from 6 different countries. We wanted to focus on the most complex problem of this domain, which is the broker-dealers. Not only they have the RIA side, they have FINRA down to solve some issues there as well. It's really exciting to be here to present this solution. And the solution that the team came up with is called Cloud Native.
When Oleg called and said, hey, this is what we're putting together, and this is the chat we want to have, I absolutely wanted to participate because it's what Doreen and Oleg and others are doing in the industry is they're helping with that change management aspect and really changing the scorecard of what we should be focused on.
But we need to bring forward those providers that can help advisors who have a different model in servicing clients.
They project that by 2022, 90% of organizations are going to be completely in the cloud. So, heads up, everybody, we got to do it, right? There's only 2 years to 3 years stops left, if you don't want to be left behind. Invent.us, we're officially launching here at T3. Okay, so
yeah.
3, 2, 1, woo! Thank you. Thanks so much.
So Oleg, this is your second company that you've launched now, so congratulations. So talk to me a little bit about the origin story about Invent.us.
I've been in the business for a long time, with Finance Logics, and then 3.5 years at InvestNet. And over the years, we see this same kind of issues come up with, both from a software vendor side and from a large enterprise side. And this is kind of the efforts that everybody's taken to make systems a bit more friendly to each other, right? More integrated, more consumable by users are great. They kind of get you there, say 80%, but then there's always these little things that never get quite fixed and never get quite right. And unfortunately, the problem is because, historically with Finance Logics, we had over 40 integrations and, maintaining them and actually things break. And, it was taking a lot of our developers' time. As a matter of fact, over 20% of our developers' time was spent on these types of things that we never expected, right? So I always wish to see if we could solve that problem somehow for the industry, not just for software vendors, but similar problems exist in enterprise environments for financial services firms. And definitely the advisors are the ones that are actually filling it and their clients. So at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to really try to help solve this tough part, that 20%, and that's those complex systems, architecture, systems, orchestrations problems are the ones that we're trying to solve with Invent.
And you had an interesting statistic in your presentation at T3, which was 90% of companies will move to the cloud and move their information to the cloud by 2022. But talk to me a little bit about this concept of cloud-based versus cloud-native. The cloud just seems like this ambiguous thing that people always talk about, but there's obviously a difference.
Cloud-based system is like when you have a solution that you've used before cloud existed. Say it was some kind of SaaS program that is web-based, you architected it using kind of traditional computer science methodology that, as a matter of fact, I was taught in school. And now the cloud came about, right? You can put your files in there, sure, that's one use of the cloud-based systems. But then you try to move your entire software. Imagine any vendor that's here at T3 moves their software to the cloud. They would take what they've created and move it from their service, literally, that they're hosting with, maybe even in their own building, over to something at Amazon or Microsoft, right? So it's another way of calling it like lift and shift. So you take what you have, you move it to a different sort of server base that's maybe put it in a container so it's a little bit more spread out and more resilient, but it's not changing the essence, the architecture of the system, right? It's kind of like when we moved from DOS to Windows back a long time ago, right? people didn't want to write in Windows. They're like, why would I write in Windows? Everything's perfect in DOS, right? It's great. Why don't we just put a wrapper on the DOS and, it will kind of look like Windows, but behind the scene it's still going to be DOS. Well, those that are still remember those systems, you know how they function, right? You don't really take full advantage of the operating system. So cloud native is, I believe, a new operating system for the cloud or for the industry or for the web or whatever you want to call it. That is essentially changing the way all the software has been built, and the principles in the cloud native software architecture are completely different for what even I was taught in school, right? So all the things that came out and really matured in the last couple of years, essentially the basis of that new operating system.
And you had a great analogy during your presentation as well. It's timely with the Super Bowl coming up, but you said your new platform will essentially help folks go from the red zone to the end zone. Talk to me about that concept.
Essentially, many broker-dealers in the industry, many enterprises, many large LRAs wanted to create a unique environment for their advisors, right? Because they'll need to compete, they need to create systems that differentiate themselves, right? And oftentimes that's done by either hiring an outside consulting firm, using platforms like Salesforce or MuleSoft or others to kind of tie things together in a single platform, or maybe using internal resources to try to custom build it, right, internally. All great approaches, but then again, they kind of get you into the red zone, right? So you kind of get almost everybody kind of happy with what's there, right? The majority of the advisors are using it and loving it, right? But it's not quite in the end zone. So what we're helping firms to do, both vendors and enterprises, is to try to figure out what's that 20%, and how can we help them move there for least amount of effort and money, and for the least amount of time. Because generally those 20% take 90% of the effort, right? That's kind of the trade-off.
Absolutely. Well, Oleg, again, congratulations. This is a very exciting venture for you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
From Medici Studio, I'm Shannon Rossick.